So welcome, I'm Chris Cooney, President of the Metro South Chamber of Commerce. It's great to see all of you. It's good. I see a lot of reunions happening here and a lot of familiar faces. Before we get started, I just want to thank Shannon, Teresa, Corey, Jen, Bill, Ray from Massasoit for their wonderful hosting of us here today. Right? So it's a pleasure to be back in person with all of you. It's so nice to be here at Massasoit Community College on this beautiful, little breezy day, but sunny just the same. And how many knew it was Arbor Day? It's Arbor Day today, right? So go home after this and plant a tree. There is a tree planting right after this at City Hall Plaza, so I might see you over there. It's especially nice to see the improvements that Massasoit has made during the pandemic. When something kind of negative happens like this, you hope there's silver linings and things that can happen. And it was nice to see Massasoit took that opportunity to renovate this entire space. If any of you have been here in the past, you noticed it was, vintage 1970s, very clean and neat, but it looked like 1970. It's all been redone. The carpeting, the furniture, the lighting, the ceiling, everything, every surface has been touched. And many of you missed the best part, which is the student lounge just to the left here, the cafeteria. All new kitchens and new technical or technology infused, let's say, stations where students can both eat and work at the same time. So really wonderful upgrade. Kudos to you. As many of you know, the Chamber holds these programs regularly. It is a terrific opportunity to come together, to reconnect with others, and to learn from interesting leaders in a variety of fields. Today we are very pleased to be hosting Gene Fox, manager of the newly extended South Coast commuter rail, as well as Mike Lambert from the Brockton Area Transit Authority, Margaret LaForest from the Mass Office of Business Development, Anthony DeSimone from Cunningham and Associates, and of course our President Ray DePasquale, President of Massasoit Community College. So let's have a round of applause for all speakers. We're going to hear from them very soon. I would like to acknowledge several of our tables of our friends from community-based organizations that have joined us here today. The Cape Verdean Association is here of Brockton, the Brockton Redevelopment Authority, the Rotary Club of Brockton, and the Brockton Workers Alliance. So these organizations are all strategic partners and add to our community, and we're happy to have them here with us as conveners and as connectors within the community. We have a very full program, so please enjoy your lunch. If you want to go back for desserts or seconds, no worries. Just kind of work your way up there. We try to put it a little further away so you won't bother anybody. But this is a working lunch, so we want you to enjoy your lunch while we're speaking and while you're listening. At this time, I would remind you that there are green question and answer sheets on your tables. If you have a question for any of the speakers, just write it down, wave it in the air. One of the staff will come or the ambassadors will come and bring it up to the lead table, and we'll get that in. We'll get it to as many as we can. We have a lot of speakers, so we'll do our best. And that's it. So now let me introduce our MC for today. She's the one that brought us all additional test kits from the Brockton Neighborhood Health Center, right? A round of applause for that. Sue Joss is president of the Brockton Neighborhood Health Center, and she's past chair of the Chamber's board, and she will be our MC today. Thank you, Sue.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you all and welcome. And I saw so many people today that I haven't seen live and in person for years. It's good to see you all outside of a little black box on Zoom. So I want to start off today by thanking the Chamber's ambassadors who are here today. So if you could stand as I say your name, but please hold your applause to the end. Brenda Cairns, OCES, Rich Hook, SCU Credit Union, Joanne Schneider, Eastern Bank, Raiko O'Neill, Bluestone Bank, and Catherine Light, Envision Bank. Thank you all. I'd also like to thank our Chamber board members in attendance today, Mike Lambert from BAT, Rich Hines from Barber Corporation, and me. So thank you. And I don't know if Jay Pike is here. No, not yet. Anyway. And finally, I'd like to thank our elected, selected, and state officials for their attendance today, including Senator Mike Brady, Shirley Azak, Brockton City Council, Michelle Dubois, our state rep, Mayor Robert Sullivan, who I don't see yet, but I'm sure he's coming, Jay Patakis, Mass Development, Mary Ellen DeFrias, Mass Development, Donna M. Schweiler, South Shore Women's Business Network, and Mary Waldron from OCPC. So thank you all for being here. Today's Good Day Metro South program is being hosted and sponsored by Massasoit Community College. Founded in 1966, its origin can be traced to 1947 study by the State Board of Education, which determined the need for the college. The study proposed that 12 community colleges be established, one of which would serve the greater Brockton and South Shore area. In 1961, a proposal was brought before the Brockton School Committee, and after a feasibility study, announcement of the college was made in 1965. Massasoit Community College is a dynamic, diverse learning community that supports all students in their education, leading to a career, transfer to four-year institutions, and the pursuit of lifelong learning. Faculty and staff are committed to student success and strive to offer accessible and innovative programs with comprehensive support services to prepare students for membership in the global society. So with that, it's my pleasure at this time to introduce Ray DePasquale, president of Massasoit Community College, to provide a brief update on the college. Ray began his presidency at Massasoit Community College in August of 2021. Prior to his appointment, he served as president of Clinton Community College in New York. Additionally, Mr. DePasquale was a consultant for the Rhode Island Board of Education and served as president of the Community College of Rhode Island from July 2006 to January 2016. He served as a commissioner of higher education for the Rhode Island Board of Governors for Higher Education, which is now the Rhode Island Board of Education, and as vice president for enrollment management and student affairs for SUNY New York at Brockport, and where my future daughter-in-law, by the way, just graduated from Brockport. Yay. In a number of leadership positions at Springfield Technical Community College, he began his career in higher education at Middlesex Community College. Mr. DePasquale holds a master's degree from Northeastern University and a bachelor's degree from Arkansas Tech University. He also received an honorary doctorate of humane letters bestowed by the New England Institute of Technology. Please join me in welcoming Ray DePasquale, president of Massasoit Community College.
Is this our clicker?
Yep, all you need to do is just advance the slide and yours should come
All
up.
right, let's, okay. All right, got it. Hey, Sue, thank you for that very, very, very warm welcome. A bit long, and it's nice to have all of you here. Most importantly, honestly, Chris, and I'm going to embarrass him a little bit, our president of our chamber and just executive director, has been just an extraordinary friend to the college and to me. Since the day I arrived, he's introduced me to more people and just has really said, what can we do to help you? And it's a partnership that is just beginning to grow. So we're really excited, Chris. And more importantly today, to be able to host you, to have the chamber here. It's really our first event bringing people on campus in quite a while, probably in 2 years. Next week, we're going to be hosting South Shore Bank of Directors, and we're going to continue to get our campus open, and for all of us, hopefully, get our masks down again and get us somewhat back to normal. When I saw the COVID testing kit on my table, I began to think, geez, I hope we get past this soon, and we will, But more importantly today, it's a beautiful day out, and welcome to Massasoit Community College. It's a great place, it really is, and its potential is still unlimited. You heard a little bit about our introduction, and so let me just give you just a few things about the college that you may or may not know, and wanted to share with you some facts. By the way, some of these facts are really facts that represent community colleges across the country. Massasoit is really not much different than them. So before I do that, I just want to introduce a couple of my colleagues who I've invited here to join me today, particularly our Associate Dean of Corporate Education, Mary Ellen Brett. Want to just stand and wave? And Mary Ellen's really in charge of workforce, and you need any training or any development. And Chris, this is why there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? Is a little bit of advertising, is that, Mary Ellen is our person. And we're going to talk about a $41 million renovation project that's been in the works for a long time here on campus. It will literally change. This is a game changer for healthcare and science in the South Shore. No doubt about it. And when I share with you some of it, I think you'll begin to see it. But Bill Mitchell, our Vice President for Administration and Finance, was really the architect behind this that designed it. This will be the third try, as they say, Bill. If we had hit third, it would have been you're out. But at the end of the day, we got it. About 2 weeks ago, the governor announced, brought us to Salem, and 3 institutions across the Commonwealth got $30 million each. One was Salem State. One was Springfield Technical Community College, where I used to work for about 20 years, in a great project. If you don't know STCC, Springfield Tech, they had the first armory in the United States. George Washington actually stood on those grounds and declared it the first armory. They have all this beautiful historic buildings. They're going to get their $30 million to really renovate some of those old buildings. It's pretty historic, and if you're ever in the Springfield area, drive in those gates, and when you see those beautiful, I know, here I am advertising Springfield, right? Here, yeah. So as you look at that, those wonderful fence that you see around it is made out of melted down cannonballs. When you talk about the history of that institution, it's amazing. But in any case, the third recipient was Massasoit Community College that received $30 million from the governor. And Bill Mitchell, please stand, and thank you for being the architect behind that, Bill. So Massasoit, like many community colleges and colleges across the country, are losing enrollment like crazy. Most colleges are averaging 25 to 30% of their enrollment has dropped since the pandemic hit. We're all trying to get it back. So let me just share with you some of our statistics. So this past fall, we're about 5,200 students, and we are probably one of the most diverse campuses in the entire Massachusetts system. As you probably know, there's 15 community colleges. Massasoit is 54% today students of color. 65% of our students are part-time. Think about that. And that is a new trend in community colleges, which means it's taking them longer and longer to graduate and get into the workforce. That's an important piece. About 62% of our students are female. That is another trend that's happening across America. More and more, yay, right? On the downside of that, we're finding more and more males not going back to school. And that's an interesting trend that we still need to figure out why. So just a little bit of data so that you get a sense of what's going on with enrollments. Where do our students come from? Real quickly, I wanted to give you the top 10 communities where the bulk of our students come from. First is Brockton, Randolph, Stoughton, Weymouth, Middleborough, Taunton, Boston, Whitman, Bridgewater, and Easton. We have students literally that come from over 100 communities across the Commonwealth. But those are the top 10, and we wanted to make sure you knew that. We also have 700 students in our what is called college access or dual enrollment programs. That's really exciting because it gives high school students an opportunity to get college credits. You can transfer anywhere from Massasoit to go anywhere you want. But they can go anywhere they want, and it saves parents a whole lot of money. Not to mention, our tuition is the second lowest of all the colleges in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Just some pretty good stuff to go. So with that, let me begin and get very quickly, because of the short amount of time that we have together, and certainly we'll answer any questions that we have about the wonderful restoration project that we're about to embark upon. So here's some information. It's all going to be up on the board, so I'm not going to read it all to you. But basically, this is one of the fastest growing regions in all of Massachusetts. And think about this, 24% of our population is over the age of 65 by 2035, including me. And the workforce occupation priorities of things like med lab, radiological tech, health technologies, nursing, psychiatric nursing, other healthcare options, Massasoit will position itself to literally be the leader in training in these facilities. Not only that, but working with all of our local hospital and healthcare agencies to do in-house training for them. When we talk about, and you mentioned it, Chris, when you were up here, the 70s, our buildings are 1972. And when I show you some of the pictures in a few minutes, they look like they're 1972. So today, when you think about it, our buildings have not been touched since 1972. And so this project will literally transform our training and education. It's truly exciting. So it's a conversion of our liberal arts building. It's 2 buildings, and obviously all new lab spaces, flexible lab space, and that's an important piece because we really want to be able to use it for multiple purposes as we train people not only within the college, but from those that need training to continue to improve upon their skills. Growth in Massachusetts science offerings, we're launching new programs. We're going to begin to talk about new healthcare programs and expanding the programs we have. Programs like nursing, which we're well known for, medical assisting, dental assisting are here, radiography, technology are here, and we want to grow our healthcare programs. New science programs, diverse enrollments, as I mentioned before, STEM research, and workforce needs of Massachusetts. This is the area that it will see the largest growth of any is in the healthcare professions. And so we're preparing ourselves for what we think is a very bright future, but most importantly, responding to the needs of the community and responding to the needs of the labor force. And let me continue to put that information up there so all of you can read it. And on your table, I've placed, all of you should have the entire renovation project that you'll see. And again, I'm going through this pretty quickly for you. So conversion of our science building, 19% of all workers in South Shore regions are in healthcare and social assistance, representing the largest industry cluster. The industry is projected to add 5,000 new workers by 2025. And so we're looking at everything from micro-credentialing to working with our K through 12 schools, reimagining Massasoit in a way that it has never been thought of. And it's going to be a pretty exciting project for us. Now, the good news is everything I've just told you. The bad news, it takes a while to get it built, right? So when will we actually be in the building? 24, 25, right? By the time you do the design, the plans, the good news is we have $30 million to start the project. The other $11 million is we're going to fundraise. So hopefully we'll be knocking on some of your doors. We want to raise between $2 and $3 million and really have our partners in this have a stake in this. And then we are going to borrow a little bit of money because we can do that through the Commonwealth, and we're going to do it because, one, we have no debt here at the college, and that's an important piece of what we're doing, again, Bill's area. So it's a plan that we think is really doable. Obviously, the governor thought so as well, because we're thrilled that he endorsed the project. We're working very hard to get him here to talk about this project in the very near future. So let me put up, and if you look at, this is just state-of-the-art stuff, right? It's as bad as you can get. I had the privilege of being in Middleborough, and we have a campus in Middleborough that some of you may know. Our paramedic and program is there, and as you go into Middleborough is a growing community. Enrollments are growing there, population is growing, and they have a brand new high school, which the superintendent brought me into. I said, I want to go back to high school. I mean, the high school was so well designed, such a beautiful facility, and embarrassing to me that I got to take students from there and bring them here to our labs, which are really from 1972, and not very functional. So again, as you look at this will really is a game changer for our college. And yeah, laugh. Look at the old labs, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. And what they will be is pretty amazing too. Just to give you a little bit of insight, and we'll periodically, Chris, throughout this project, we're going to put it up on our website. And anytime anybody wants to see the progress of it, it'll be there with pictures and insight as to how far we are away from completing it. And then there's a Representative Dubois who came to us in Salem, and the governor and our team who announced the project down in Salem. Obviously, a very eventful day, and certainly having been at Massasoit for just about 8 months, I don't know of anything more exciting that has happened in my professional career than to be able to say we're part of a $41 million renovation that's going to change this college and the South Shore for outstanding training for our region. And so let me also share with you a couple of other thoughts. And we're about to, and you may or may not know about this, the Downtown Project. Downtown Project is the unemployment office. Our unemployment office is moving where they currently are in Brockton down to this new outstanding facility. I brought Chris down there not too long ago. It's pretty amazing, pretty impressive. Everybody thinks when they go to the end of Belmont and they look at the entire building that the whole building is ours. No. It's just about 3,500 square feet in the building. And there's Chris and a group that visited, but you can see the building. It used to be a department store, am I right, Chris? In Brockton, and has been converted into an outstanding call center and unemployment center for our area. And we will occupy the lower level of about 3,500 square feet. And let me back up again. And within that square feet, we have multiple classrooms, about 3 of them, and what we really want to do is have a very soft opening, meaning I don't want to really say at this point we're going to put this in there or that in there. What we really want to do is open it up and begin to have our business partners come use it, do lecture series from downtown, work with the mayor and his team, work with Chris and his team, to begin to have healthcare seminars, have seminars with UMass Dartmouth, who we're a partner with. And something you may not know, we're part of something called a very small group called Connect. It's the first time that I've ever worked at any state, in any place, where 6 college presidents actually work together instead of compete against each other, right? We work for the best of our region. And who is that group? That group is Bristol Community College, Cape Cod Community College, Massasoit Community College, Mass Maritime, UMass Dartmouth, and Bridgewater State. And the group of people that are together are amazing. And we've already done one project which is working together on wind power. All of you know it's taking over. When I left Rhode Island, they were already off of Block Island and Deepwater Wind, pretty amazing projects. So as the Commonwealth moves to building these amazing turbines that are going to be out in the ocean and all of that, Bristol is going to be a lead, and we're also going to be a big part of that as well. So pretty exciting projects, but downtown we think is really going to make a difference. And the last thing I want to share with you is we're going to be having a pretty special event here on Saturday, May 21st. We're beginning a new fundraising, and it'll be the first one, called Marvin Hagler Education Champions. Why are we honoring Marvin Hagler? Real quickly, Marvin Hagler was part of our board. Marvin Hagler has started a huge scholarship here at the college. He also has left us a considerable amount of money that we have not received yet, but he has told us, his family has told us that is coming. But Marvin Hagler has been a great representative, and you know the rest of the history, you know, our middleweight champion, a Brockton person, but his influence on this college has been tremendous. So that evening we're going to honor him as our first educational champion. At commencement we're going to honor him and his family, obviously through a honorary associate degree. And we're also going to be honoring the Boys and Girls Club as our very first champion of education for the community. So with that, let me tell you thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here. We hope you get as excited as we are about the future of Massasoit Community College. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Ray. It's exciting to hear what's going on here at Massasoit. I didn't realize that that there was so much exciting renovation going, so congratulations on that. Now I'm pleased to welcome the manager of the new South Coast Rail, Jean Fox. Jean Fox is the manager of the Massachusetts Department of Transportation's South Coast Rail Project. She also serves on the Bristol County Commission on the Status of Women, the Freetown Lakeville Regional School Committee, and UMass Dartmouth Center for Policy Analysis. A former Freetown selectman, Jean has participated on numerous educational boards and committees in the South Coast, was founding board member of the Alma de Mar Charter School and Smiles Mentor for 3 years. Prior to joining MassDOT in 2011, Jean was the Youth Council Director and Literacy Works Entrepreneur at the Greater New Bedford Workforce Investment Board. Jean also served on the Southeastern Regional Planning and Economic Development District Commission, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and the SRTA Advisory Board. She has been active in bringing much-needed attention to the transportation needs of the region, working on a transit development plan in New Bedford, advocating for reliable transportation for women and students to get to and from work, jobs, education, healthcare, and childcare. Jean earned her BA from the University of New Mexico and MBA from George Washington University. She lives in Freetown with her husband Lou and has 3 grown children. Please help me welcome Jean Fox.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for welcoming me today. Fascinated to hear Mr. DePasquale about all the wonderful things that are happening here. I worked very closely with folks at Bristol Community College, Connect, all those people when I was at the WIB in New Bedford. I see a future that is just golden for community colleges, and thank you for taking a lead role in making that happen for so many people. It's definitely a huge milestone in getting our people onto career paths that work for us and the Commonwealth. So thank you for that. But I'm here to talk about a train that I might have been waiting for 30 years. Okay, I'm going to totally blow this. I brought Joe Segroy because he knows what he's doing. There we go. So South Coast Rail is actually a restoration project. Up until 1959, we had trains that ran to New Bedford and Fall River. Oliver Wendell Holmes rode a train. Lots of famous people came down from Boston to the Fall River station and then got on those fancy ferries that took them to New York. This was actually a very active area. But what happened? What happened was interstate highways, the post-war era of cars in every driveway. It really put a financial strain on railroads. So even though it was 59, that last train rolled, the reality is that by the mid-50s, they were in financial distress. And people didn't need them. So they were no longer sexy, they were no longer needed. And from that point on, we've been sort of talking about, well, what's happening? The Southeast Expressway opened the same year the last train from New Bedford ran to Boston. And that's an oxymoron. We all know if you've been on the expressway, it's not express. So we also know, I live in Freetown, which means I commute on Route 24, otherwise known as Suicide Alley. It's terrible. It's also an area, Bristol County has horrible air quality. Why? Because we all sit in our cars that aren't going anywhere. And also, we have so many incredible amenities in Taunton, New Bedford, and Fall River that people in Boston don't know about. And it's not just cranberry bogs, and it's not just Lizzie Borden, and it's not just whales. There's beaches, there's so many beautiful national and state parks that when people come down, they're just astounded. So all of these resources, all of these amenities are another reason for making this connection. But then there's the other one, housing stock. People tell me all the time how expensive it is to even rent in Greater Boston when you can get a really beautiful house in Fall River for $300,000. So, excuse me, there are so many reasons to make this connection. And of course, economic development is at the top of the list. So we have great workforce. Those 3 cities are gateway cities. But that doesn't mean they don't have enormous potential, because they really do. So with South Coast Rail, we had to do what we call a phased approach. When we finished studying it after 30 years, we found out that it was going to be over $3 billion. It was going to be the only electric line for which we had absolutely no infrastructure to support. We knew there would be environmental impacts that would call for variances. So what that meant, after so many starts and stops, was that if we went with just that go through Stoughton into Back Bay and Boston, we probably wouldn't see the train for many years yet again. The Baker-Polito administration recognized that we needed to do something, and by building phase 1, We are reintroducing commuter rail to the region, much-needed commuter rail linkage. We're also building 56% of the track miles that go to what we call the full build, while we look at the rail vision and the future of commuter rail in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So it's all good. And then also good is the fact that we really are on time, on budget, and fully funded. We're a state-funded project with the Fall River line at approaching 60% complete. I have Congressman Auchincloss coming to visit me on Monday, and I'm going to show him a station in Fall River that looks like a station. The Middleborough secondary is partnered with the New Bedford Main Line and the Signals contract, which includes positive train control. That's a much bigger, that was a $400 million contract. That's a little bit behind. It started later and it has more to do, but it's approaching 40%. With our goal to have revenue service by the end of 2023, we expect to reach the midpoint of construction imminently, which I think is phenomenal. And we are, again, so you see that mock-up of the Fall River Depot sign. We are doing mock-ups everywhere to make sure that what we're doing is in alignment with all MBTA policies, but these stations are really starting to look like stations. Next slide. So again, that southern triangle piece that's in the red is common to the full build in phase 1. It includes the Middleborough secondary, and it goes all the way down to the terminal cities of Fall River and New Bedford. We have 6 new stations we're building, 2 in New Bedford, 1 in Fall River, 1 in Freetown. Then Middleborough is actually about 5/8 of a mile from where the existing Lakeville station is. This phase 1 service is connecting to an existing service, the Middleborough service. We're adding to the train sets, only 2, to the 24 that already run up and down the tracks. But we're adding 1,600 riders to the ridership, at least initially. We also have 2 layovers. The MBTA wants to see the trains go to bed at night near the end of the line. So we've managed to do that, one at Weaver's Cove in Fall River, and then Wamsutta in New Bedford. So what have we done? By the end of March 2022, our 2 contracts had already completed $242 million worth of work. We have 400 construction workers out there right now. We completed already a number of early action things. We did the special track work and turnouts, other track materials. We did 44 culverts, 4 rail bridges, and an awful lot of prep work along the Middleborough and New Bedford main lines. We did a lot of things that people didn't like. Tree canopy removal was a little bit controversial because it was so overgrown. When you go in and you clear the right-of-way to MBTA and FRA standards, suddenly it looks in areas like a barren wasteland. But you have to do that for safety. If leaves fall on the tracks, a train can derail. If a bough falls on the tracks, a train can derail. And all we have right now in the area are 10-mile-an-hour sporadic freight trains. So the vegetative management plans were not being attended to. But now it looks good. You've seen clear right-of-way, and we've done an awful lot of that with some punch list stuff right now. We've also completed 5 of 9 bridges on the Fall River secondary, 6 of 11 culverts, and 10 of 10 grade crossings. We have already put 5 of the 12 miles of track, and our stations are really coming to look like MBTA stations, which are not South Station, North Station, Union Station, or Grand Central. They're platforms with parking lots, signage, and canopies. We've graded the layover at Weaver's Cove, and we're building our crew building because the crew has to have a place to go before they start and end the day. On the New Bedford main line, the larger contract, the tree canopy again was cleared. The grade crossings, almost all of them are done. They're going to have to go back and do some paving and signal work. But the work continues along the right-of-way from north to south with 4 of the 11 culverts completed, 5 of the 18 grade crossings, and 5 of the 24 miles of track. Then we have a fancy soil management reuse plan that we worked out with DEP. So all our soils, you can imagine soils that are along an industrial area, railroad right-of-way, might have some toxins in them. So we test everything before we put it anywhere, but we also save by reusing rather than shipping it out for disposal. The other thing I wanted to share, and this is fine, when we did those early action culverts, they were all old granite culverts. So we worked out a deal with fisheries, and a whole bunch of that granite went to Cape Cod for offshore reefs. So this old granite that was there for hundreds of years is now home to fish, and I think that's pretty cool. So what are we doing? A lot of fencing, and it's not fancy fencing, it's 6-foot chain link, but it's put there for trespassing and safety reasons. And we also want to remind people, and I asked, I forget who I was talking to earlier, but one of my biggest messages right now, because our region is not accustomed to trains, is the railroad safety aspect. So wherever I go, I tell people, that state property, please stay off it. It's dangerous because that 10-mile-an-hour train is going to be an 80-mile-an-hour train. You can get out of the way of the 10-mile-an-hour train. You cannot get out of the way of a commuter rail train screaming through. So safety, safety, safety. If you could all bring that home, I would so much appreciate that. So our stations are pretty basic. They're all 800 feet high level, which means you can board from any car. They're fully accessible. They have canopies or canopy or canopies. We have bike parking, EV charging, accessible parking. The parking lot size depends on what our ridership studies saw. So we have something as small as 107 at the Freetown station. We have 350 at each of the New Bedford stations. So accommodating for 700. That's for phase one. When phase two, or the full build launches, our ridership numbers are expected to tick up substantially. We're doing some landscaping. We've got bus drop-off, which you know about, Mike. We have that, those transition plazas. And then we'll have new signal systems, so this big giant hawk systems going in Middleborough to help people get across Route 28, hopefully safely. So a lot of good stuff is happening. Here's a rendering of Middleborough Station. You see that is at 41% completion. All our platforms have that FRP material rather than straight concrete, so it's got plastic in it. It tolerates the bags of sand that we tend to throw out in the MBTA. And then you can see the station on the right, how it's coming to be in preparation for that FRP platform. Middleborough Station. Middleborough Station is actually coming along. That's going to be the next one to get the FRP. We've done a lot of work there with the underground drainage, all the utilities, things like that. So nothing that's terribly wonderful to look at right now, but it is coming along. And Fall River Depot is almost halfway done. Its platforms are in, the mock-ups are done. They're going to be doing some grading. Right now it's a mucky, muddy, mired mess, but it's coming along. Next one. And we have the Fall River construction progress. You can see the FRP with the yellow line, and also we have stairway up to the site from Pierce Street. And Church Street is the North New Bedford station, and that one's at roughly 33% complete. They've done it, you see the rebar. A lot of work goes on that doesn't look like a railroad station until you start seeing the pieces come together, but it's super exciting for us. And here's construction progress there as well. So you can see we're really coming along. So why is this important besides Oliver Wendell Holmes used to ride the train and I really want it and have for 30 years? Because there are so many great jobs that are going to come out of this. This is a region that really deserves to have this connection. And this connection is going to have benefits to the entire Commonwealth. Once we get people to work, that benefits everybody. We expect this will boost the economic vitality and job opportunities. The station area development, transit-oriented development's already happening with technical assistance grants we've given and the regional planning agencies given. So they're planning around these stations now so they can have mixed-use development, allow people more opportunities to walk and bike to stations and get off the roads. We have better connections to tourism, for example, Battleship Cove and Fall River, fascinating place to go. A lot of people don't realize it's one of the biggest World War II memorials in the state, and in fact the country. And then we do have the technical assistance, and we also see that there's, reciprocal. There are a lot of people that will want to come down to our region, not just go into Boston for education, healthcare, or jobs. And then we are very excited with our freight partners, and mostly it's Mass Coastal Railroad, but CSX operates in our area too. We know that the gateway cities, Lowell, Fitchburg, and Worcester have higher rates of education, have seen higher rates and lower rates of unemployment, and a lot of that is the link that's happened. All right-of-way improvements support more efficient freight. So when you get the trucks off the highways, one truck is 100 vehicles worth of damage to your roadway. Get this stuff, you can move it more efficiently, you can move more of it by using freight. So I want to see the freight services expand. We're already seeing them kicking the tires. To a state struggling with high housing prices, and to a state facing anemic population growth and future worker shortages, as was just pointed out, the possibilities of growing energetic and the gateway cities hold out the possibilities of growing energetic and diverse immigrant and minority communities already contributing to our workforce and already seeking the American dream. This is part of that American dream, making these connections, making it a possibility for people. That's Battleship Cove, by the way. That was very cool. So education and transportation, my two big mantras. They are transformative, and they are essential to economic development and quality of life. So the Mass House of Representatives is proposing to strengthen the early college program. Half of the funds will reimburse colleges for providing more courses to high school students free of charge, and the other half covers capital growth that high schools can tap for technical assistance, professional development, and evaluation, and hopefully more of these articulation agreements with the high schools that you're doing such a good job with. The Gateway Cities Legislative Caucus is fully behind this effort, understanding that education is linked to economic success and benefits for their cities and the residents. South Coast Rail can provide the transportation link that brings students from southeastern Mass to all of these opportunities. We expect to operate, and this is where I need to talk to Mike because we had different numbers, but we expect to operate 26 trains during the weekday operations with 13 in and 13 out, 3 peak period to each of the terminal cities in the morning, 3 in the evening, and then some during the day. A train's going to pass about every 45 minutes during peak and anywhere from 1.5 to 2 hours off peak. We don't have a fare schedule determination at this point, and the Cape Cod Flyer, which has seen a great deal of success, is going to continue to use the station that exists in Lakeville right now. We have on the ocean right now bi-level coaches that are coming from Korea. I mean, they're going to land in Wareham, get some testing, and hopefully we get to put those 4 out to try. We needed 16 more according to our ridership, and the bi-levels can hold a whole lot more people. Outreach is a big part of any project like this, and I pride myself on being responsive. We have a website, we have email, we have a hotline. We encourage you all to sign up if you don't get our weekly e-blast, which Joe so diligently puts together and gets out, so everyone knows what's happening, where, when, and what. All the time, every week, these things go out. We have, that number's wrong, we have almost 5,000 signed up now. So anyone who's, and he did it today, anyone who's really close to an area where there's going to be, say, an outage, a 24-hour, 3 to 5 day operation, abutters get a physical flyer, so they know ahead of time that they're going to be inconvenienced, but it's short term. So with that, I think I'm done, and I thank you all for this opportunity. I'm so excited about South Coast Rail, you might have seen, but I'm also so excited to have been here, to have been invited to speak about this project, for which I am minorly passionate. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheen. I know that project has been long awaited in the South Coast, and we're looking forward to it. And also, all of those trains coming through Brockton will be great for our area as well. So thank you. Before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to acknowledge 3 elected officials who came after the earlier introductions. So, City Councilor and former Mayor Moses Rodriguez is somewhere back there. There you are. City Councilor Shirley Azak, there you are. And Mayor Robert Sullivan, who I saw come in, there you are, okay. So welcome to all of you, and State Rep Michelle Dubois, I think you were here when we introduced you last time, but you were in the back, so welcome again. So at this time, I'd like to thank Jean again, and also welcome and introduce Mike Lambert from Brockton Area Transit Authority. Mike is the administrator of Brockton Area Transit Authority, where he once oversaw 3 million annual trips across 11 communities before the pandemic cut ridership in half, or nearly in half. Prior to his arrival at BAT, he managed transportation departments at MassDOT and the MBTA, and served as chief of staff to the mayor of Somerville. Michael holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from the College of the Holy Cross and a Master in Urban Policy from Harvard Kennedy School. Please join me in welcoming Mike Lambert.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Sue, and for all your hard work over the past couple of years keeping our workforce safe and healthy and on the job. Once again, my name is Mike Lambert, and I'm the administrator at BAT. Fortunate to have been in that role for 3 years, coming up on Sunday. I'm also joined by a number of my colleagues over here. Thank you very much. Feel free to stop by after the program. We're also joined by Mary Waldron, our close partner at Old Colony Planning Council. Thank you very much to Chris and the Chamber for having us today. By way of introduction, here's an image of our system map. Key aspect here is that while we serve 11 communities around Greater Brockton, our fixed route service is concentrated very tightly around the city itself. And this allows us to provide convenient, affordable, and safe service 7 days a week. Most city routes run from 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays, and our most popular route to Ashmont runs from 5:30 a.m. to 12:30 the next morning in order to coordinate with the MBTA. As you heard during the introduction, prior to the pandemic, we're running about 3 million trips a year. And then, as of when the pandemic hit, you saw ridership plummet. And this is very unfortunate because we had just, in early 2020, begun to reverse a slow 5-year decline in ridership that had been caused by increased car ownership in the Brockton area, changes to the employment sector, and the proliferation of Uber and Lyft. In fact, we were just about to increase our service to 20 minutes all day when COVID hit. Obviously, there's a dramatic impact on ridership, but it's important to know, and I like to stress this point, that there was never an interruption in service due to workforce shortages, and the average number of trips held firm at about 2,000 per day. This is an important number because it includes many of your employees or customers or yourselves who had to complete essential trips regardless of the circumstances going on around them. Since the initial drop due to the shutdown, ridership has had some fits and starts, as you can see, due to subsequent variants or seasonal dips in ridership, but has slowly begun to rebound. And as of last month, I'm happy to report, BAT set a new high watermark post-pandemic, having regained 68% of its original ridership. Assuming no more bad news, we expect this trend to continue and to restore about 85% of our previous ridership. But that final 15% may have been lost due to changed commuting patterns or employment patterns. However, it is important, as you just heard from Jean, from an environmental, health, and economic perspective, to restore and then grow ridership. So how do we do that? At least 4 ways. First is to focus on technology and amenities. We're making our existing service more inviting to new customers via new technologies and amenities. Customers can now use a single integrated app to see when the next MBTA service, BAT bus, or commuter rail train will arrive, as well as to plan out their trips. Additionally, BAT is one of only 2 public agencies in the Commonwealth to offer mobile bus tickets and passes. Also, in response to COVID, we added amenities to improve the customer experience, such as outdoor heat, new shelters, new bus stop signs, customer service windows, and the now famous Lady C&J Cafe. We must continue to focus on customer experience and improve wherever and whenever possible. You guys got that? Second, this year we'll be piloting a new, more flexible service known as microtransit that combines the on-demand, door-to-door convenience of Uber and Lyft with the affordability of public transit. At least initially, customers will be able to travel throughout the town of Rockland, as well as to key destinations in Brockton and Abington. Rides can be requested through a smartphone app or by calling BAT directly. Fares will be fixed and similar to current bus service, with none of the surge pricing that can make Uber and Lyft difficult to rely on. Based on the early success of similar programs in nearby towns, we're optimistic that the efficiency and flexibility of the new service will work here as well. Third, we must be leaders in the transition to low or no emission vehicles powered by, at least partially, by renewable energy. This long-time goal is now finally achievable from an operational point of view. Bus batteries are more powerful and are capable of running 150 miles on a single charge at reduced operating costs to agencies. BAT has been working with the city, MassDOT, our friends in the legislature, and the Federal Transit Administration to secure grant funding for battery-powered transit vehicles and expects to begin transitioning its fleet starting next year. Here we have a picture of Martha's Vineyard bus parked under a solar canopy that feeds a battery storage system and a charging station. Vineyard's made real good progress in transitioning their fleet over. They were a great candidate to sort of be the first mover in the Commonwealth, as they have seasonal service, and it is harder to run battery-powered buses in the winter when the heat is such a drain on battery. Finally, and to bring us full circle, we must transform our railroad use from current traditional peak time commuter service to the all-day frequent bi-directional service known as regional rail. As you heard from Gene very convincingly, the introduction of South Coast Rail creates good potential for connections between Fall River, New Bedford, Taunton, Brockton, and Boston. And we're further well positioned to take advantage of this due to the overall number of commuter rail stops in the Metro South region, as well as the high-quality bus service. But this potential is unlikely to be realized in the short or midterms without far and more frequent, affordable service throughout the day. 2 years ago, MassDOT completed an in-depth study depicting 6 different scenarios, which are up here, of regional rail implementation. Only one of them brought 15-minute frequencies to Brockton, and that required other customers from the Old Colony Rail Line to switch to the MBTA at Braintree. In order to achieve this transformation for our region, South Station must be expanded, and the physical bottleneck just south of downtown Boston, where I-93, Route 3A, multiple rail lines all come together, must be eliminated or at least significantly improved. So I encourage you to stay tuned on this issue. Keep an eye on BAT. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. But advocacy will be essential as COVID hopefully recedes, South Coast Rail is completed, and the state turns its attention to the next phase of transit. Again, feel free to reach out to me or the chamber for more information. And thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Mike, and lots of good transportation news today. Next, I'm happy to introduce Margaret LaForest from the Mass Office of Business Development. Margaret is one of those people I've seen on Zoom for 2 years, lots, and I've never seen you in person, so good to see you. Margaret is recognized as a purpose-led, results-driven, dedicated leader with over 18 years of experience in government and nonprofit roles. As a Quincy City Councilor, she had direct oversight of a $300 million budget, was particularly known for her communication with constituents and environmental, coastal, infrastructure, and emergency management expertise. As an elected city official representing a district abutting the downtown redevelopment area, Margaret handled over $100 million in private sector gateway revitalization projects, from small to large housing developments to commercial redevelopments, transforming many blighted properties while protecting the integrity of the residential neighborhoods. She chaired the Oversight Municipal and Technology Information, Public Works and Environment, and Public Health Committees, and was vice chair of the Downtown and Economic Growth, Library and Historic Places, and Veteran Services Committees. Whew, that was a lot. Her public service extends beyond Quincy, having served on the Massachusetts Municipal Association Energy and Environment Committee and as an alternate to the Commonwealth Seaport Economic Council. So please join me in welcoming Margaret LaForest.
Well, thank you very much. I have to say, my role at the Mass Office of Business Development is a part of the Baker-Polito executive team. And our job is to connect businesses with any program, grant, or incentive we offer at the Commonwealth or any of our partners. So really, it's kind of like jack of all trades. What does the administration need you to be working on? And I spend a lot of time with our chambers of commerce. And of course, coming out of COVID, the Lieutenant Governor and Secretary Keneally co-chaired the COVID reopening advisory board. And I just have to give a shout out because so many of the people here in this room I have met via Zoom. And Chris Cooney and the staff at the Metro South Chamber of Commerce really did a service to the chamber membership and knocked it out of the park. The most consistent, my region for the Commonwealth covers between Waltham, over to Chelsea, down to the Cape and Islands, Fall River, New Bedford, right? 351 municipalities. And really, if there's a project going anywhere, I could be out working in Pittsfield. But for my region, the most consistent chamber, hands down, was Chris in the Metro South Chamber of Commerce. So by show of hands, how many other Zoom people should I meet in person before I head out? Because I wasn't able to network earlier here. But the Metro South Chamber of Commerce also benefits from a program that the administration administers through our agency, and that's the REDO, Regional Economic Development Organization. So yes, while Brockton is home base for the chamber and the REDO, Chris actually, in his advocacy, represents at least another 11 communities. But I actually, Mayor Sullivan here, I heard you come in, and it was always such a pleasure to be on Zoom, and we spent a lot of time together. And one of the things that Mayor Sullivan always says is the city of champions, that Brockton, if Brockton was a stock, go buy it. Well, Mayor, I think you have some slides to add to that pitch deck, because the transportation infrastructure that you just showcased here surely lays the point. Brockton's actually represented on a federal program, the Opportunity Zones, the top 1% rate of return in the entire country. So you can see clearly the groundwork that's been, for decades, for a generation, the South Coast Rail Project has been talked about, and it's so exciting. I think with COVID and working from home, you haven't been out and about and seeing it. So it was so terrific to see your photos, and I look forward to, you cutting that ribbon and seeing that train ride. I loved your opening. Long wait for the train. But I do, Mayor, I always like to come with some money, right? So the redo, we'll start, slow on. I'm holding some till the end of the remarks, right? Cooney gave me instructions. So we're gonna start with this redo program that we talked about, just had another opportunity. And, Chris really brought the project forward. And so we're announcing just recently $140,000 for 2 terrific projects. And so I hope you're all, I know the food here is fantastic for your meal, but stay hungry because Regional Restaurant Week is coming up, and of course Brockton's participating, and I believe expanding to a few other communities. So $95,000 for the Restaurant Week support to draw traffic to your businesses. Why is it the Chamber puts forth their energies in these events? The bottom line is to support the member businesses and support the communities in your downtowns. And believe me, I think everyone's chomping at the bit to get out and about. So I'm excited to see that one come up. And then to have the Brockton Area Transit here, they'll also be benefiting from the installation of signage, welcome, interpretive signages for residents and visitors to the city of Brockton in the surrounding area, and that's going to be another $45,000. So my job is, we curate our conversations for the variety of businesses in here, and you've heard a lot of those remarks. And so I really encourage any of you offline to talk to me about what is it, people go about their businesses, and in Brockton, there's such a variety, whether it's manufacturers, that retail, the healthcare, the financial, the support services, and the Commonwealth has a lot available to help you. And I see that I wanted to say, I saw Mary Waldron in the room. I want to give you a shout out for Mary's one of our partners as well with the Economic Development Incentive Program. She serves on the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council. That's for the big projects, right? If you have a big CapEx, a lot of hiring, there's a real estate tax relief program called the Economic Development Incentive Program, and Mary serves on that board approving projects across the Commonwealth. But on the smaller scale, it's like, what's in that day in, day out? And where are those pain points for your companies? And so I just wanted, by raise of hands, I was with this crew the other day. Anyone from here from the Mass Hire team? Who we got in the back, maybe? Jason Hunter, he did a great job giving some remarks on the administration's road show. So we're having these Hire Now road shows and trying to get a crowd across the Commonwealth to make sure you know what the workforce development resources are. How many in the room are familiar with the Workforce Training Fund grant? Good amount of hands going up, but not as many as I think. But she may have snuck out. I'm not going to dime her out. But Mary Ellen Brett and President DePasquale, you've got an amazing resource here at Massasoit Community College. So how many employers here have staff they need to train, are struggling to hire, right? We're hearing this all across the Commonwealth. But one of the things that we have in Massachusetts is talent. And for exactly the resources that were mentioned here and the investments we're making, and getting you access to that talent. So there's a $4,000 program to help companies right now hire. It's called the Hire Now program. I encourage you to look online or talk to me offline about those details. But something every single person in this room can leverage for their business is the Workforce Training Fund grant. When you pay your payroll, you pay a fee, WTF. In the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, that's the Workforce Training Fund, Workforce Training Fund. But you can draw down on a grant up to $250,000 on a 3-year rotation. And you can use some of that grant funds to send your staff to take classes here at Massasoit. So maybe you need that team member to get a credential. We're hearing so many times of, geez, I'm struggling to hire, or I'm hiring someone but they need some training. And so you can upskill your current workforce, and I think promoting that within, because of course employee retention is one of our next topics and is so important. So that Workforce Training Fund, each community college throughout the Commonwealth has a corporate education director. Mary Ellen Brett happens to be here from Massasoit, is the best of the best. And so she can help you curate a menu. What are the training needs you need for your staff? Can Massasoit be a vendor to train you at those programs? They'll even do on-site, they can even do on-site training. And so there's a variety of tools there, but you have 2 years to spend up to $250,000. A third year is kind of like a cooling off period, and then you can go back again. I think people are like, oh, I used that grant, it was great. Yeah, don't leave money on the table. Go back. This is something that's renewing for you. You're paying a fee, and it's a way that you can utilize your dollars to invest in your workforce. There's also the $30,000 Express grant. So there's no shortage of workforce development funds. With the federal funding that we're getting in, there's a slew of other programs just being developed. One of the things we talk about, particularly when you're at a college, of course, is internships, right? So if you're a company, a technology company, a clean energy company, a life science company, the Commonwealth has funding for you to pay interns, right? So you're going to utilize the grant funding to pay the interns. You're going to have an employee working for you and helping upskill the future of Massachusetts. So just a program I always like to talk about. And then anything about getting connected. Sometimes it's just like, you might have heard about something that's out there. What is the Massachusetts Life Science Center? Or, as President DePasquale mentioned, the clean energy sector. That is about to be booming in the Southeast, and as you're talking about the Southeast Rail. Do you know the folks over there? Do you want that connection? And that's a way that I can be valuable to you and to your company. The other thing that Chris had specifically asked me to talk to you about today is the economic development bill that the Baker-Polito administration just submitted. And I did see Senator Brady came in and joined us. But let's give you a civics lesson, right? That when you see the governor on the news filing a bill, then my phone starts ringing. How do I get that money? It's like, well, the Senate and the legislature needs to be reviewing that bill and approving that bill before that money is on the street. So this latest economic development bill, the final of the Baker administration, is forward, future opportunities for resiliency, workforce, and revitalized downtowns. And so, Mayor, here it is. How much money, right? So, minimal. There's 351 municipalities throughout the Commonwealth. There's only one city of champions. And I'll tell you, when I came here, I say this on the workforce calls too, is Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito were like Brockton. Brockton's your base camp. Be in Brockton, be present. You hear us often talk about gateway cities, but you also see when we're putting these programs on the street that that's where a lot of the money times is going. So for 351 municipalities, the minimal commitment is $250,000. but I would be pretty confident that Brockton's going to be at an increased value. They're looking at things, geography, population size, but they've made a commitment that every single, I mean, we have some very small rural towns out in western Massachusetts, right? And so they wanted to say, what can we just share out of the gate? What's that minimum in $250,000? So I'm sure your team here will be advocating, and Councilor Asak, for more, but at minimum, that's what you're going to be getting. This bill includes $1.25 billion in capital authorization for housing and economic development priorities, and approximately $2.3 billion in ARPA funding. But what is it that works for Brockton that the mayor's ears are perked up about? One of those is housing. We talked about transit, you talked about housing, you talked about, where Brockton has a lot of businesses. How can those employees get here where they want to live, work, and play in that same region? So there's $268 million specified for housing. And a tool that Brockton's benefited from is HDIP, similar to EDIP, that I work on the corporate side, on the business side, but for the housing side, Housing Development Incentive Program. That had been funded at $10 million. They're increasing the cap to $30 million. We talk about transit-oriented development, right? And I remember being in the city council in Quincy 2010, we recodified zoning for the first time since the 1960s. I wasn't born, right? What is it that the zoning is saying that encourages this development? And it was restrictive. The administration put a lot of energy around housing choice, and Brockton's been one of the communities as a gateway city to benefit from that HDIP program and seeing that it's ripe to build housing around your transit. So it's really great to see the stage is set here in Brockton for the mayor and the council to be bringing these opportunities forward to the benefit of your communities, of your residents, and your businesses. There's in innovation, $337 million, right? So Massachusetts is really known on a global scale for our innovation, our healthcare, our technology, our cybersecurity. Chris and I were just at Bridgewater State College with, actually, President Clark is also on the Metro South Chamber Board, right? Past chair, still chair? And really exciting to hear what the investment is being done in our public universities around those industries to support growth here in the Southeast. One of the things they're talking about is just expanding their core programs to support manufacturing, to support R&D. And I know I was surprised when I first started coming to Brockton about how much manufacturing is still happening here. And you see one of my first tours, right? So they're also leaving windows of funding, so $200 million for matching fund, anticipating potential federal grant opportunities and what are those match requirements. So now we have this match in hand. So communities, $650 million. These are the one-stop programs, right? The MassWorks program, which was such a tremendous use here in Brockton. I think you've been a recipient, every year. And I remember the parking garage. One of the first public events I went to in this position was the ribbon cutting for that parking garage in honor of your former mayor. And how it's like, well, here's a parking garage. What's happening around it? But you see, you need to invest in your public infrastructure. You're investing in your transportation infrastructure. And now that private development, that public-private partnership comes to fruition through to a lot of efforts of the Sullivan administration as well. So look for your communities for that MassWorks grant, some broadband financing. I think some of us take it for granted. Of course, Brockton, that's another key infrastructure you have, is like you have this fiber network that's unbelievable, that what you're able to power out by the infrastructure that you have. That really sets you ahead of the curve when companies are looking to come to the Commonwealth, and a talking point we often have. I spend a lot of my time on large-scale projects, hundreds of millions of dollars, when Massachusetts competes nationally. This life science company needs a location for its manufacturing. This technology company needs a location for you name it. And so we spend a lot of time reviewing what are the sites we can bring forward for Massachusetts, what is the project that's appropriate for that community, and we win some and we don't win some, but we go after them all. And we spend a lot of time in doing that. And clearly, the quality of life of Massachusetts, and what we hear really is the talent that Massachusetts brings, bar none, keeps us ahead of that competition. Like I mentioned, the workforce, the Heinz Convention Center, this is one of the items in the bill authorizing the sale of the Heinz. and with some stipulations relative to redevelopment. The ARPA 2.0, $2.3 billion in funding, so 1.2 in energy and environmental initiatives, $750 million in clean energy innovation. It was referenced earlier about that, Brayton Point, that offshore wind industry and the boom it's about to have on the South Coast economy. 325, labor and workforce development, 318 for economic development, 318 million, and a reserve of $100 million for direct COVID costs, testing, vaccines, and there's just a lot through there. So stay in tune with your representative and your senator. They're going to be working through this bill, and then when you see them sign it and the money's hitting the streets, then call me and say, hey, I heard they signed that bill. How does that help my business? I'm happy to work offline with any company. I always welcome you to contact me. I'm often with what they call us the Wonder Twins, Sue Whitaker, my colleague. We're always glad to come to Brockton, and thank you for your time and your presence here today.
Thank you, Margaret. You're doing great work, and it's always nice when you bring money with you, so thank you. Our final speaker today is Anthony DeSimone from Cunningham and Associates, who's with us to discuss employee retention credits. An employee retention credit is a fully refundable tax credit designed to encourage employers to keep employees on their payroll. The goal of the ERC is to help businesses bounce back from financial fallout of the pandemic and regain economic security. Business owners can now claim up to $5,000 tax credit for every employee on their payroll in 2020, and up to $7,000 for the first 3 quarters of 2021, whether they receive PPP funds or not. Please help me welcome Anthony DeSimone.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Massasoit team, thank you so much for hosting, having everyone here. Chris Cooney, thanks so much for the invitation. And again, thank all of you for joining and listening to me today. I'm going to be hard to follow up Margaret, but I'm going to give it my best shot. So, my name's Anthony DeSimone. I work with Cunningham and Associates. We are a specialty tax and business consulting firm, very recently specializing in the employee retention tax credit. The retention credits are probably 16 months new. Originally, they came out in the CARES Act, that same act that funded PPP-1. Just quick show of hands, how many people have heard of PPP? Everyone. How many of you have heard about the employee retention tax credit? Significantly less. Really what happens is Congress often pushes taxation through policy. While the retention credits are new, this strategy is not. So PPP comes out, and at the time the retention credits come out at the same time. No one really talks about it because it's buried underneath PPP. Everyone saw PPP and said, wow, a fully forgivable loan from the government. How can I not take advantage of this? What they didn't see is that there was also the employee retention tax credit that came out. However, at the time it was you take PPP or you take the retention credits. That has since changed, and that's why this has become a lot more popular as of recently. December 27th of 2020, the Consolidated Appropriations Act came out. And in this act, they changed the language to now allow you to dual claim both PPP and the employee retention tax credit. So huge opportunity. Then we move forward, and I promise I'm going to bore you with just one more bill. And it's the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill that came out in March of 21. In this bill, they actually expanded the credit to be eligible for up to 4 qualified periods. It's 2020, much like we just heard. You're eligible for up to $5,000 per employee in 2020 upon qualification. In 2021, there are 3 eligible quarters, and it's the first 3 calendar quarters, which, as we just heard, you're eligible for up to $7,000 per employee per quarter. Put it all together, simple math, we all did math, $26,000 per employee. A lot of money on the table here. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, is this great incentive that has come out to help struggling businesses that had to deal with a lot of things during COVID to put money into their business and be able to prosper and get through this. So, oftentimes, we work with attorneys, CPAs. This is a nuanced credit. It's not traditional tax preparation. So when you see the bill There are a couple of different things here that you can use to qualify. First of which is based off a revenue reduction. I'm on dozens of calls a day, and what I hear all the time is, sorry, I don't hit the required revenue reduction, I do not qualify. So oftentimes people will look at that and just push it to the side. What they're not considering is the second qualifying measure, which most businesses will qualify under, and what's called a business disruption, either full or partial, due to a government mandate. This can come in the form of many things. Were there government mandates restricting your businesses? Does anyone know? Maybe. Some of those could be work from home orders. Traditionally, you're in a brick and mortar office environment. Everyone's in the office. Great, you all get to see each other. Sometimes great. Now you're transitioning to work from home. That's an untraditional business practice. That can qualify you. In the state of Massachusetts, I'll give an example here. We know that there were capacity restriction mandates all the way up until May 29th of 2021. I remember that because I'm 25 years old. I just wanted to go out again. That was when I was allowed to. But let's think of some really heavily impacted industries here. Restaurants, very heavily impacted. For a period of time, they were shut down. Once they were allowed to open back up, might have been just a takeout environment. Once indoor dining was allowed again, they were still mandated to operate at a 50% capacity, meaning that they didn't have the opportunity to continue to push through. These restrictions put in on them makes them excellent candidates for the retention credits. Restaurants aren't the only ones. You have gyms, you have retail stores, brick and mortar environments. A lot of small businesses were very heavily impacted by not just the pandemic, but the mandates put in on their businesses. And this is how they qualify. And again, what we talked about was up to $26,000 per employee is eligible, and it's broken out into the periods. A lot of money available here. In terms of show of hands, I know we have a handful of people that have said they heard about the employee retention tax credit. Has anyone in this room actually benefited from the incentive yet? See one. How did it work out, Chris? Pretty good, right? Exactly. So, much to Chris's point, it's not just for-profit businesses that can qualify. Nonprofits can qualify as well. And there are a lot of different things that a lot of different businesses experienced that were hardships due to COVID. Now, our firm's been in business for 35 years. I haven't, but our firm has been in business for 35 years. In 35 years, everyone on my team has said this is the best incentive that has ever come out. There's a ton of money available here. We don't know how much longer. This changes with policy. What we know right now is this is available right now. My job today is just to tell you a little bit about it. There is this incentive out there. If you benefited from PPP or you think your business was heavily impacted due to the COVID-19 pandemic, whether you had a revenue reduction or not, there's a likely chance that you will qualify for at least one period of the retention credits. Now, there's a flyer, or a couple flyers on everyone's table, just outlining some of the things that could qualify you. You'll also see my contact information on there. I know we're all super busy. I don't want to keep you too long, but my contact information's on there. If you have any questions, you want to learn a little bit more about it, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. We're happy to help and address any questions. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Anthony. Lots of great information today, and so much great information that we used up the question and answer time that we had allotted. So those of you who thought you would have to answer questions, you're off the hook. We would ask that all of today's speakers still come up to the panel for photos at the end. And I will finish. Oh, Chris says now. If the speakers could go up while I'm reading the final announcements, that would be great. So the Chamber's next event is the annual Small Business and Entrepreneur of the Year Award, which will be held at Thornley Golf Club from noon to 1:30 on May 13th. This program is being sponsored by Bank of America and supported by MassHire Greater Brockton Workforce Board. Some other save the dates: business after hours at Abington Bank, Wednesday, May 25th, 5 to 7 p.m. Athena Leadership Award Luncheon. And by the way, nominations are still open for that. Friday, June 17th, from 12 to 1:30. Business After Hours with Luke Jackson Corporation, hosted by the Children's Museum of Easton, June 22nd, from 5 to 7:30. And now for the door prizes. Each Good Day Metro South, we randomly select one company to be highlighted in the upcoming action report. So this month's winner is Mary Ellen DeFrias from Mass Development. Door prize number 2, a bottle of red wine. Mike Simmons from Brockton Community Access. There you go. From MBTA Commuter Rail, a wooden model train. We have 2 of these. The first winner is Doug Smith from Stonehill College. And the second one is Tim Ehlers, Wood Wealth Group, sorry. And the final door prize is a book by Molly McPherson, who is our speaker for the Small Business Awards, a book titled Indestructible, and the winner is Joanne Schneider from Eastern Bank. So, the trains, Tim Ehlers and Doug Smith. I only have 2. You get to keep one. All right, and the book was Joanne Schneider. So want to finish up by thanking today's ambassador team, Rich Morgan Photography, Brockton Community Access Channel, the Enterprise News, Chamber staff members, our host and sponsor, Massasoit Community College, and finally, a thank you to our speakers, Ray DePasquale from Massasoit, Jean Fox from MassDOT, Mike Lambert from BAT, Margaret LaForest from the Mass Office of Business Development, and Anthony DeSimone from Cunningham and Associates. Thank you all, and thanks for joining us today. Have a wonderful weekend.